Welcome back to Car Guys fans. This week we have big car news.
Yeah.
So this week we just saw Stellantis, who, for those of you who don't know who they are probably one of the world's largest automakers. Stellantis was actually a joined together of the French PSA group and the Fiat
Yep.
Chrysler Automobiles group, and it covers, John. I mean, this thing covers Alfa Romeo,
Yeah.
Chrysler, Citroen, Dodge, Jeep. I mean, everybody's in this, right?
Dude,
And I mean,
it's
if
so
you look
many
at what's
different
going on, it's
manufacturers.
crazy.
It's unreal, man. This is absolutely crazy. They lay off what 400 workers, is that right?
Yeah, 400 workers.
Yeah.
And now they're recalling 285,000 passenger cars.
Absolutely crazy. And
It's
this all
nuts.
comes on the eve of this electric mandate that everything's going crazy, man. The sky's falling.
Yeah. Well, you and I were talking about earlier, right? So for those of you who don't know, the recall is or surrounding these passenger airbags that can literally just deploy at any second, and they're sending shrapnel through the cabin of the car.
I mean, it's the Takeda recall all over again.
Oh, it's unreal.
And I don't know. And they're saying it's because moisture can get in the vehicle. Well, Dodge vehicles aren't the best for keeping moisture out of the vehicle, from my understanding. I mean, my Ram truck's got a recall for the rear window. They extended the coverage on it for like multiple years due to it leaking. And guess what? I went through a car wash not too long ago, and it's leaking. So,
Oh my God.
yay.
But I mean, of
Unreal, man.
all the things that could go wrong with your car, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine just being in traffic and the airbag just deploying at random? Like,
Ah,
to me, that's absolutely insane. But
the question is, how many of them did that before they were like, we're gonna issue a recall?
I gotta be honest with you. So it had to be a few, because I've known safety recalls are usually a lot quicker, right?
Yeah,
But there are a lot of recalls that end up in a TSB, a technical service
absolutely.
bulletin, right?
Yeah.
Where there aren't enough of them to really be an issue yet, and the manufacturers and the you know dealerships know about it, but it's just a technical service bulletin right now. They're not willing to recall the cars and do the work for free, right?
And I think that really is just a way of the manufacturer being like, well, we know this is a problem, but we're just gonna kind of cover ourselves in case it becomes a recall.
Right.
And that's basically what a TSB is to me. But I mean, tell me in the comments, what do y'all think? Is that what it is? I mean, is a TSB basically a pre recall, or am I looking at that all wrong? Because I've seen TSBs for other things like axles clicking that really don't affect the performance or the
Right.
anything of the car. It just makes a noise. So tell me what you think. Let us
Yeah, I
know.
mean, I'd love to know if somebody knows in the comments, if somebody can tell us, is a TSB kind of early warning sign that if enough come along that it's going to be a recall? Is a TSB just kind of like a CYA,
Yeah.
right? And you're just making sure that you've already said that, oh, we started to see this.
Yeah.
What is it really? But I mean, John, this is not the first thing that we've seen from Dodge lately. Dodge has been on a whole trajectory lately that has just been unprecedented and in the wrong direction.
Absolutely. It's crazy because these are the guys that make the Hellcats. They made the Viper. They made some crazy cool stuff throughout the years.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point my alarm clock, or I'd see a clock and it'd say 7:07, and I'm like, that's a sign. I need a Hellcat. And I never I never bought the Hellcat. The only Challenger I got still at the Dodge dealership. No. Anyways. But
I
no,
will say,
yeah.
though, on that topic, right? Somebody sent me a meme a couple years ago, and I thought it was hilarious, right? It was, Ford introduces the Mach-E, right? Chevrolet introduces the EV, this or whatever, or EV Bolt, right? And then it said, Dodge, got a bunch
Puts
of
a
guys
Hellcat
sitting
in
around and
everything.
they go, put a Hellcat in a minivan,
Yeah,
right?
let's do it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love that about
Yes.
Dodge. That was their
Yeah.
thing, right?
It was their, like,
Put a
middle
Hellcat in
finger to
everything.
the it was their middle finger to all the EV guys, and now it's like, Man, we could just talk about this. So I obviously am a Viper fanboy. I've been a Viper fanboy since I was a little kid. That was my pinnacle car. And when I finally got one, then I was like, I want a Gen 5. And I never purchased one yet. We're waiting to see what the market does. And also for that money, there's other cars I would buy. So we'll get into that. That's another story for another time.
Hold
And
on.
we've talked about
Hold
it in the
on.
past.
Would you get rid of your existing Viper to get a Gen 5?
Yes. So the agreement with the Viper is that if we do get rid of the Viper, it has to be with another Viper.
Okay.
So that's
All
our
right.
agreement. Now, in my mind, I want a Gen 5 ACR Extreme Aero, and I won't settle for less if I'm getting rid of the Viper my wife took me to pick me up when we were just dating. So for me, that's, I'm very specific in the car, and I ain't got the money for that. So
Didn't you have an opportunity to buy a Gen
Uh,
5 Extreme Aero?
this again. My wife's gonna hate me. She hates this story. I had the chance to buy one for $127,000. Now at that
Oh,
time, I owned a house that was 145, so I didn't do it because I thought, that's very close to the value of my house, and I can't put that much money into a car. That was the justification, and I was giving up 3 cars to make it happen too,
yeah, yeah.
and
What's that car worth today?
a lot more. A lot more. It's almost tripled in value, man. It's almost $300,000. The one we were buying was less than 7,000-mile car. So I mean, it
Oh
would have
my God.
been, if we kept it in, pristine shape and all that stuff, and it needed some stuff. It wasn't perfect, but at that money, to me, we didn't know that though. I mean, 2019 happened and
No, you didn't
everything
know that.
went
Nobody knew
stupid.
that.
You
I'll give you
know,
some credit there.
at the time, the market was not going up; it was going down.
Right.
But anyways, I digress.
Yes. So
So,
talk about, we talked about this earlier. Talk about where Dodge is going as far as, with the SRT program and all the cars that are coming out and that sort of thing,
well,
right?
the SRT program is dead. They killed it
Right.
a few years ago. A buddy of mine was actually an engineer for SRT, and all of that team is gone. No one from the SRT, the original SRT group, I believe, is at Chrysler.
Doesn't that hurt a little bit? Do you remember
It
the
digs.
commercials that
It's
had
deep,
the
man.
the Dodge brothers, right? The Dodge brothers, and they were like drifting cars,
Yeah.
and it had like
So
the SRT. Oh
Oh
man.
man. So one of the things that resonates with me, and I'll send you a link to this, Adam, so you can post it. But Tim Kanukis, I think is how you pronounce his last name. He was like the brand manager of like Hellcat and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And when the Viper ACR Extreme Aero came out, he was the guy that like released and said, well, we have the Hellcats and they're the king of the streets, right? But the Viper's the king of the track, and we want to prove that. And so we just took the Viper, we threw our vehicle dynamics engineer in the car and went out and let him lap the car, and he beat the track record at, I think, Willow Springs was the first one. And
Yeah.
then he did it
Didn't they go to
again.
Nürburgring?
No, they that was a privately funded thing, and I can talk about that as well. But either way, so he anyway, so then the vehicle dynamic engineer went out and he beat another track record and another track record, and they did it 13 times. At one point, the Viper held the records for the amount of track records held by one
13
car.
times?
Yeah, it was like 13 or 14 times. And I'm going to
Dude,
send you
that's
a link to the
insane.
video.
That's
So
insane.
Tim Kanukis I remember him coming out and talking about that. So I'm like, oh man, the Viper's crazy. Like, this is why I want this car so bad. And then I watched the video for the release of the new electric Charger, whatever
Man.
it is. And let me be the first one to tell you, just watch those 2 videos back to back, and you're going to see that it is depressing where Dodge has went
Look,
and where
dude,
they're at today.
I know that we have to talk about electric cars, and we do every once in a while on this channel, right? I will tell you that I was in the mindset basically with the support from lawmakers, the support from the government, the support from automakers, right? I was convinced that it would not be a question of if we were going to move to an all EV, but a when, right? And that, from a car guy's perspective, that was killing me, right? But
Yeah.
now we're seeing
cracks in the
the EV
foundation.
market on a downturn. I mean,
Yep.
it is just not what everybody thought it was. The past 12 to 18 months have been just devastating for EV, right? Sales have been down. Tesla's cutting prices on their cars, you know. We saw the CEO of Hertz. He announced last year they were going to sell off 20,000 EV vehicles and get out of the EV game,
Yep.
right? Which was hilarious because they had,
They had this big
Tom
push for it.
Brady. Oh my
Oh,
God,
yeah,
huge
massive
push,
push for it.
right?
And but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, man. That's
No,
the that's the truth of it.
it is the truth of it. The real truth of it is when it came down to it, people were range anxiety is real, and
Yeah.
I can tell you that for a fact because I
Yep.
know it. Range anxiety is real. The infrastructure is not there, and people were worried about having one electric vehicle. And the answers
Yep.
that people were getting when they asked simple questions. There's a town hall where this lady in Florida says, "Hey, I live in Florida. We have hurricanes. What happens if there's a hurricane and the power's out?" And the guy literally says, "Hope that one of your neighbors has a combustion vehicle." That's not an okay answer, you know?
You know, you look at
That's
it,
not
man,
what you want.
as a singular uh, as a singular piece of transportation. So if this is your
No.
one and only piece of transportation, your only choice for transportation, I'm
No.
sorry. If it's your only choice, and this is and most people don't have multiple cars. We are fortunate enough that we do. And
Yeah.
I'm very happy to say that. And we're there. But some people aren't. And that is their single mode of transportation. And some people only have one car for a family. Imagine you got 6 people you're trying to get somewhere or something like that. It's unreal, man, to think that, "Oh, no, if I cut the AC on, I may not make it to the charger that's,"
No, and that's
or
real.
whatever,
So
and
we went to I went to Maine to go visit a client in Maine. And we get there, and the only place that had rental cars available was Hertz. And the only
yeah,
reason they had rental cars available was because it was all EV. And so I ended
right,
up with a Chevy Bolt EV, which was the little SUV, right?
right.
I got in the car, had 227 miles of range or something like that. I called the guy I was traveling with. I said, "Hey, listen, the only thing they've got is this Chevy Bolt EV. How far away is our meeting?" And he said, "Well, it's 45 miles one way, so 90 miles round trip." I'm like, "Man, we got 227 miles. We got
Should make
plenty of
should be
range,
plenty.
right?"
Yeah, if it was
Uh,
realistic.
the hotel was, I don't know, 2-3 miles from the airport, so we weren't going very far. I
Yeah,
mean, it was fine. So we drive to the hotel, which I will tell you was kind of a weird experience anyway because you don't shut the car off. You get in the car with the key, you put your foot on the brake, and that activates the car, and then you just drive away.
yeah,
And so when you get out of the
like a golf
car,
cart.
there's no button to turn it off. You just walk away from it, right? And
Yeah,
that really kind of like I just didn't feel secure. Like I didn't feel like I locked the car appropriately,
you're consistently checking yourself.
the whole time.
Yeah,
And so the next morning we leave and we go visit our client. We go 45 miles up there at highway speeds. It's a 70-mile-an-hour highway. I'm probably doing like 75,
yeah.
and we're just going with the flow of traffic. We get up there and we're down to 130 miles or something like that. We did we like burned off 90 miles going up there.
In a
And I was like,
40-mile trip.
on a 45-mile trip. I'm like, this is insane. And so we start looking for charging stations. I get on my phone and look for charging stations that were in this area. Now, mind you, we're in rural Maine, right?
Yeah.
We went to 2 locations. One of them had no chargers at all. They were coming soon, but they were
Oh my
they
god.
were on the map, right?
Yeah.
And the other one had, and I'm not making this up, I have a picture of it somewhere, had 5 2x4s with 110 outlets plugged in them, and it was behind some, like, motel. And I'm like, "Do you
How
understand what it
sketchy
would
is
take?"
that?
Oh, it was super sketchy. It was super
Oh my
sketchy.
god.
And I was like, "Do you understand what it would take to charge your car at this thing? We'd be here for, like," that's the reason why it's behind a motel because you have to stay at the
Oh my
motel,
god.
right? So, we're
Wow.
literally going home. Our other meeting canceled so I could fly home a day early instead of flying home the next morning.
Right.
I'm on the phone with Delta, going home and I'm like, hey, can I change my flight to this day? There's a flight at this time, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, no problem. And I look down and we're at like 80 some miles of range. And we still have
Oh
like
my
30
gosh.
miles left to go, or 20. I think it was like 25 miles left to go. And I was like, we're not going to make
You're
it.
in full
Like,
panic. Yeah.
oh, I was panicked. So I'm starting to slow down. I'm like cutting things
Unreal.
off in the car. The craziest part about that car, and for anybody who's driven a Bolt EV, comment below, because I'm telling you right now,
I don't know
they can
anyone that
back,
has.
dude, they can back me up
Except
on
for you.
this. So on the Bolt EV, on the steering wheel, there are paddles, but only on one side. It's on the left side.
Okay.
The paddle has a what looks like a battery and a plus sign, right?
Okay.
In my car guy mind, that was like a boost button.
Was it a
I thought
charge button?
it's a chart. It's a basically a, you know,
A regen?
it's a regen.
Okay.
Do you know how it applies that regen?
On braking.
Yes. So if you're doing 75 miles an hour on the highway and you don't know what that paddle does, and you're in cruise control and you grab a handful of that paddle on the highway, you're going backwards a lot quicker than you planned on going. Oh, it was scary,
Nice.
dude. And no one told me. I figured it had something to do with like regenerating the battery, but I was like, it's not going to like throw the brakes on. Why would it be on the steering wheel?
Oh man. Hey man, you want to race in my Chevy Bolt? I got the boost button right here, baby.
I'm telling you, dude, it was insane. So we ended up getting it back to the airport, and I got it back with like, I don't know, like 5-10 miles on it. And I literally just pulled it up to the guy.
Did they charge you for it? You know, they charge you if you
No.
ain't got a gas in your, gas car.
No, because they just plug it in. But it was terrible. But I mean,
crazy.
that's the real truth of it is that was one of the most stressful drives of my entire life.
Yeah.
And it didn't need to be, right? Because
Right.
that same vehicle, that same size vehicle, the like a compact SUV,
Right.
you can put $30 in it
And you're
and
good.
drive that car for 3 weeks, 2 weeks
Yeah.
without filling it up, right?
Yeah, it's I don't
It's
know.
just
And there's electric people that love them. And I'll say most people that do love them are Tesla people. And I may be stereotyping, but stereotypes
But they
for
live in a
reason.
city, John. They live in
It
a
depends.
city. There's nobody making cross-country tours in a Tesla.
Yeah. I mean, but the charging capability of the Tesla, I think, is much, much better than their
I agree.
competitors. And the competitors are the ones that are getting mandated.
Yep.
Tesla's there. That's all they make is electric cars. So, all these other people are being mandated to it. And I think that's affecting their business. And it's truly affecting. I mean, there was these astronomical numbers that Ford, GM, and Chrysler all said they were going to put into production to be able to, beef up their facilities for this, electric mandate. And the only
Yeah.
question is, how much of that money was government money?
No, look,
'Cause
GM's backing off, right? Ford's losing their shirt on every EV that they're selling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not there for them. And to make matters even worse, so I watched an interview just today with Elon, right?
Yeah.
Talking about Tesla. And he was talking about how when he initially went into the market, some people who were investing in automakers told him that you'll never make it. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons you'll never make it is because it's very hard for a new car company to enter the market, because car companies, according to the interview, can sell cars at a $0 margin.
Yeah.
Because they make all their margin, they make all the money up on the existing fleet that's out there doing repairs and parts and labor, right?
Right.
And that's where all their money comes from. Now, with that being said, if you next time you come up to Atlanta, I'm happy to take you by a couple of the lots that Tesla's had to purchase to store cars that are being repaired.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of the other things too, Tesla doesn't make their money off their electric vehicles. They make it off electric tax credits.
Right.
So that's a big, huge part of Tesla's business. And I think that automakers, to skate these, electric vehicle mandates, are just buying more credits. And they're like, it's going to cost us less in the long run than to try to sell a car that won't sell.
Yeah.
And that's
and
why
I mean
the
EV market is down. I mean, look at the resale for these things. Resale is down. the passion or excitement around a lot of these EV cars has died out.
Yep.
Rivian just laid off a ton of people.
Well, all
And
automakers have.
yeah,
It's
but I mean,
been
it's
crazy.
been crazy, you
Well, I
know?
mean, yeah, it's been pretty wild, man. And another part of it too is, you gotta question, man, like, is it overall the sentiments down on vehicles in general? Because if you look at the used market, it is. I mean,
I don't think it's the sentiment. I think it's the market itself. Look at what it so I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day and we were talking about how, you know, 20, 30 years ago, right? A guy
yeah,
who earned $40,000 a year could have 3 kids, a wife, and a home and
yep.
be able to provide for
Live a decent
everybody.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't exist today.
Now that's not the case,
No.
and so, yeah, I think the used market is hurting for that,
Yep.
I think that's a big piece of it is
Yeah.
everything right now is more expensive. You and I talked about on a previous episode, I mean, the cars that we're looking at today, are significantly more expensive than they were before.
Yep.
Dodge, for instance, right? My son's a Dodge fan. He likes
Yep.
he likes the Hellcat. He loves the TRX. I mean, and to be honest with you, the petrol pumping heart of mine loves the idea of just more displacement, more power, more
Yeah.
supercharger, more
Absolutely.
whine, more engine noise. I like that,
Yes.
right? But the truth of the matter is, like, I looked up the Dodge Durango Hellcat last night, because I was like,
Yeah.
that'd be kind of cool, right?
Yeah, like a
Have a Hellcat
Durango.
SUV.
Absolutely.
It's just it's $100,000, man.
Yep, and the second most stolen vehicle on the road. So,
It's a
you know
hundred
what's
thousand dollars for
yeah,
a Dodge SUV,
yep,
and no shade to anybody that's listening. I'm not a fan of the way that car is designed. I think it's boring looking.
I
I'd
think it's
rather
beautiful.
have a Trackhawk. I think the Trackhawk like a much cooler looking car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same car, but
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is, like, I like the Charger and the Challenger and all that stuff,
yeah.
but for the money, I'm buying a different car. And also, insurance rates have to be astronomical on those cars because of how often they're stolen.
But it's
And,
easy to
you
steal
know
them.
yeah, that's the part that's crazy.
It's
And,
very easy. It's easy to get in the door. It's easy to
oh,
get the car running. It's easy to steal the car.
speaking of which, did you see that Porsche will not be, selling the Cayman, any of the 718 platform? Yeah.
Why?
It doesn't pass the security requirements for EU. So
Oh
they will
wow.
not be selling anything but the GT4 RS and the GT4, I believe.
Well, the other big news, while we're talking about all this
Yeah, go
EV
ahead.
stuff, right, is the EPA regulations, right? So the EPA, along with the Biden administration, just announced new automobile emission standards. I think it was Wednesday of this week that officials have called like the most ambitious plan ever, right, to cut planet emissions. So essentially, the new rules relax the initial tailpipe emissions that were proposed last year, but eventually they get closer to the same strict guidelines that were outlined by the EPA. So, I mean, really what this is doing is it's trying to help boost the EV sales that have begun to slow. And
Yeah,
the auto industries have cited, kind of slower sales growth or lower sales growth in the objections to the EPA standards, right? And so I just
yeah,
don't know that it's like the people that we have elected to listen to us and to do what's in our best interest are just ignoring us, because they think they know what's right. But I mean, we can dig into this at another time. I mean, is EV really as clean as people think it is?
yeah,
I mean, no,
uh,
no. I mean, they're
you
called
know,
rare earth metals for a reason,
yeah.
you know?
And, you're replacing one rare thing for another to help fuel our lifestyles, possibly, but even then, it's like, come on, man, be real. Some of
No,
this
for
stuff,
real.
it's unreal.
But there are renewable resources out there, and one of them happens to be hydrogen. And
Yes.
actually, if you look at Porsche's actually trying to do a hydrogen infused gasoline that
Yeah.
would revolutionize the market.
I mean, I think if you change the fuel that the cars run on, you've got a better chance. And I think they
Right.
tried that with E85, I guess, back in the day. Now we've just found out we can make more power with it. It just burns a little quicker.
Yeah, E85
So,
is interesting, man. You get a little bit of that corn smell, but your
yeah.
car goes a little bit quicker.
I
But
mean, what is Porsche in electric world, man? I mean, I don't even like the Taycan, however you say it. I don't even like that car.
yeah, that's
I
Porsche in
mean,
electric world,
it's
and
the best looking electric car, but we had
I
one at work,
disagree. I disagree.
and
The e-tron, which is the Audi version of that car, is a
uh,
much better looking car than the
well,
Porsche.
we'll agree to disagree. I think the Porsche is better. But
No.
that being said, I've ridden in the car. I've had experience with the car, and
Mhm.
it's okay. Is it?
Exactly. It's
Yeah, it's
okay.
okay. It's okay. It's no
It's
GT3
okay.
RS. I'll say that.
I mean,
So
but what is? You
yeah,
know, whether you love Porsche or hate them, the GT3 RS and the GT2 RS are some of the, I mean, most wild cars that are out there today.
absolutely, absolutely.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
911, sets the bar for performance and just, I mean, thrill ride,
So
right?
have you ever seen
Unbelievable.
the story of the hypercar
Yeah.
with the guys from Drive, and they did that big video and all
Yep.
that, and it's one of my favorite videos. But basically, you got Chris Harris, and he says, all these other guys have one car that does all these crazy things. Porsche has too, and
Right.
it's like, and basically he's going in and saying you got the 911 Turbo that can be the fast version of the Porsche, and then you've got the GT3 that can be the fast version of that, and then you got the 918, which can be even crazier than that.
Yeah.
So, the question is, what does this electric mandate and stuff do with hypercars and the cars that we love?
Right.
And seeing the 718s get killed in Europe, man, that's like heart shattering for me.
Yeah. It's shocking, and it's not shocking in a good way, unfortunately. But
Yeah,
I think honestly, there's a good place for us to wrap it up for this week.
absolutely,
But next week we're going to be talking more about cars, hypercars, and hopefully be able to dig into some specific cars and talk a little bit more about them.
absolutely.
For those of you who haven't done it yet, go to our Instagram page, which is 2CarGuys Show. Like and subscribe here. There's tons of ways to be able to watch us, to be able to listen to us.
Yeah,
Drop us a note. We'd love to hear more from you, and let us know what we should be talking about. Thanks again,
absolutely.
everybody.
Thanks, guys.